The 2021 NFL Draft has concluded, and we've seen in the first round that there were 5 quarterbacks that were selected. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones. And in today's video, we're going to kind of look into the future of each of those 5 quarterbacks and predict which one of those 5 will be the first to start a playoff game. Now, how we're going to do this video is that we're going to do the least likely at first, and then we're going to go to the one that will be most likely to start a playoff game first. But before we get into that, make sure you guys leave this video a like. That only helps this channel to grow. And if you are a first-time viewer, go ahead, click that subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss a single video that I post. But let's get into these rookie QBs. Without further ado, let's dive into it.
I'm striving to get rich. That's why I always went 2 years without buying shoes and fits. Things change now. My mom hearing me with my music and she look a little proud.
The quarterback that will be least likely to be the first to start a playoff game is Zach Wilson. Now, he goes to a Jets situation where they are absolutely not a good football team, despite them picking up Corey Davis in the offseason to help with that wide receiver position, and Tevin Coleman at the running back. They got some guys on defense, Shaq Lawson. I still think the New York Jets are a long ways away from even being a playoff team. And as the New York Jets are constructed at this moment, there is not a veteran quarterback on that roster to, help groom Zach Wilson into being the guy. He doesn't have that veteran behind him to help show him the way of the NFL. And to be 100% honest with you guys, I think the Jets are still handling this quarterback position wrong, with not being able to get that veteran behind them to this point as I record this video. They're really going to be thrusting him out there to take a bunch of lumps, which can necessarily not hurt him, but when you don't have that veteran behind him to help groom him, you don't have that veteran if he gets hurt to take over, you don't have that veteran just in case you do plan on sitting him or letting him kind of develop, you do not have that veteran on the roster to really help this guy along. And the Jets, as a roster, they have a lot of areas to improve. Still, even with getting Zach Wilson, I don't think the Jets will be a playoff team, I think, for at least another 3, maybe 4 seasons until they nail on more draft picks, until they're able to bring better free agents and spend the free agency money better than they did in years past. So the least likely to start a playoff game first would be Zach Wilson. The next guy that is least likely to make a playoff start first will be Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence has all the talent in the world. Trevor Lawrence has some receivers in DJ Shark. He has some weapons in Chenault. He has Robinson in the backfield. But I still think the Jaguars on the defensive side of the ball, let's just face it, it's been an absolute downfall for 2017. And they are still, in ways, a work in progress on the defensive side of the ball. The offense has a little bit more promise with Trevor Lawrence. Unlike the Jets, they do have a backup that's had some experience starting in the NFL with C.J. Beathard that they brought in from the 49ers. So they do have that element. But as much as I love Urban Meyer as me being an Ohio State fan, he's still in his first ever head coaching job in the NFL. And I think this Jacksonville Jaguars team with Lawrence has some promise, but just like the Jets, they are still a work in progress. Even though, of course, Trevor Lawrence has the biggest upside coming into this draft, he has the biggest upside in his career. He has a very high ceiling that he can reach with his talent and with his arms and his mobility. I think can make an impact right away in the NFL. But when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars roster, they still have a lot of improving to do, I feel, on the defensive side of the ball. And also you bring in Urban Meyer, who's been in the college ranks for his coaching career. He's got to get used to the NFL. Even though he's brought NFL assistants to help him, I still think this Jacksonville Jaguars team, like the New York Jets, are still a couple of years away from being a contender. And then especially when you look at the Jaguars division, you have Tennessee, who's a very good team. You have Indy, who I think will still be in that top realms of that division. We're not even going to count Houston with all they have going on. But I think when you're competing in a division with the Titans and the Colts, who are last year playoff teams, who I still think could be playoff teams, I think the Jaguars have a long way to go. So Trevor Lawrence is next on that list of quarterbacks who are least likely to be the first to start in a playoff game. The next quarterback on this list will be Mac Jones. Now, I typically don't think Mac Jones is one of those guys that's going to come into that New England Patriots system and kind of carry the team. As a lot of people have said, that New England Patriots system is a little bit difficult to learn, especially as a rookie at first. Cam Newton had his struggles last year in the system. Of course, he didn't have it all season due to the pandemic, and he also caught down with the virus, so that also hurt him in that system as well. But when you talk about the New England Patriots as an entire roster, they have a secondary, J.C. Jackson, Stephon Gilmore. They brought in a lot of weapons with Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne to add to Sonny Michel in the backfield. I don't think Mac Jones is going to come in and start because they brought back Cam Newton. And I think Cam Newton, at this point now, is going to be the starter for the New England Patriots going forward. But let's just say Cam Newton goes down with an injury. Cam Newton struggles. And New England really feels it's time to bring in Mac Jones. I think that defense on the side of the ball with those added weapons could potentially be a playoff team in 2021. But you do have to account for the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills still in that division. We're not going to talk about the Jets because there's, like I said before, they still have a ways to go. So you have two top contenders in that division, just like Trevor Lawrence does in Jacksonville. And also, you have Cam Newton, who's going to be the starter. Now, let's say Mac Jones comes in and the team is doing a little bit well. It's still with that added playoff spot. And you have that New England-led defense with Stephon Gilmore and also Coach Bill Belichick. He could be more likely to make a playoff start if some scenario plays out that way with Newton struggling or Newton goes down with another injury. So I will feel Mac Jones is more likely than Wilson and Lawrence, even though I don't think it will be right away. If the Patriots do make the playoffs, I think it's going to be Cam Newton, not Mac Jones, starting in that playoff game. But in all intents and purposes, Mac Jones does have more of a chance than Lawrence and Wilson to make that first career playoff start. Now, the next part of this list is a bit of a toss-up for me, in my opinion, between which guy could be the first to make their playoff debut. But in all intents and purposes for the list, I am going to go with Trey Lance at this spot. Now, I do feel Trey Lance has the best situation for him to develop, and he has the best situation as far as the pieces go around him. You do have Ayuk, you do have Deebo Samuel, you do have Mostert in the backfield, you do have Trent Williams at the left tackle position, which I think he's one of the best left tackles in football. You have McGlinchey also on the offensive line. So when you look at the San Francisco 49ers on the offensive side of the ball, you do have a lot to work with. And how could I forget, you have one of the best tight ends in the game in George Kittle. And then when you flip things over to the defensive side of the ball, you led by Warner at the linebacker position, who's one of the best linebackers in football. You have Jason Verrett, who's coming into his own at the quarterback position. And you also have Nick Bosa returning back from injury. This 49ers team, I still think is poised to make, I'm not going to say a Super Bowl run, but you definitely have that team in the playoffs. And we're going to throw in one factor into Trey Lance possibly being the first quarterback to make his playoff debut. And that will be the health of Jimmy G. Now, we all know the last couple of years, Jimmy G has failed to stay healthy. And in 2019, when he did have a healthy year, the 49ers were very close to becoming Super Bowl champions. And with a lot of that roster still intact with some added pieces, I really feel the San Francisco 49ers can really be a playoff team. Now, they're in a stacked division with the Rams, and you also have the Seahawks, and you also have the Cardinals as well. That's why I put Trey Lance at this spot. You have a loaded division, and I think the 49ers are going to take it slow with him, but we do have to factor Jimmy G's health into this equation because, let's just face it, during his career, he has not been able to stay healthy for only one full season, and that was 2019. I think Trey Lance bringing a dynamic in Kyle Shanahan's offense with his running ability and his ability with his arm, and you pair him with those weapons, and you pair him with easily a top 5, top 10 defense, this San Francisco 49ers team has potential to really be a playoff team. It all depends on Jimmy G's health, and it all depends on the 49ers division in that loaded NFC West. The quarterback that is most likely to be the first to make his playoff debut will be Justin Fields. And no, guys, I'm taking my Bears bias out of this one because that is not the reason I picked Justin Fields at this slot. I picked Justin Fields at this slot because of, one, the Bears have, like the 49ers, easily a top 10, top 5 defense led by Khalil Mack, Eddie Jackson, Roquan Smith, and Akeem Hicks, and those guys back there. And also, when you look at the offensive side of the ball, the Bears have improved on that side as well, getting more speed with Marquise Goodwin to add to Darnell Mooney. You get Damiere Byrd with his speed. You get Tariq Cohen back off of injury with his speed. You add Damian Williams and his dynamic play in the backfield. You have David Montgomery. And you also added 2 very key pieces to your offensive line in drafting Tevin Jenkins, and you drafted Larry Borom. Even though Andy Dalton is going to come into the season as the starter, and I've agreed with that 100%, because it's going to take time for Justin Fields to develop. Let's just play out a scenario where Andy Dalton struggles, Andy Dalton gets hurt. Justin Fields and his athleticism, Justin Fields and his ability to push the ball down the field and throw the ball down the field accurately in a Matt Nagy offense, which I still hold out hope on him adjusting his play calling towards Justin Fields. But you also come into a Bears team that was just a playoff team last year. Even though they bagged into the playoffs, they were an 8-8 football team despite having a 6-game losing streak. And the Bears were in a lot of those games because of that defense. Despite the loss of Kyle Fuller, you do have Sean Desai at the defensive coordinator spot, which I think he can bring back some of those elements from that 2018 Bears defense that was dominant and the #1 ranked defense in the NFL. And Andy Dalton, I think, is the perfect type of quarterback to help groom Justin Fields, especially with his relationship with offensive coordinator Bill Lazor in his time in Cincinnati. And he's the perfect quarterback because he knows his role in this offense, and the Bears don't have a heavy investment in him to be the starting quarterback for years to come. So with the Bears being still solid on the defensive side of the ball, and I think adding those weapons and helping the offensive line really helps the Bears. I think if Justin Fields somehow sees the field this year with those weapons in that defense, and we got to play into Aaron Rodgers may not be in Green Bay. This division, if Aaron Rodgers is not in it, it's easily the Bears division to have because the Lions are still in rebuild mode, and we don't know what's going to happen with the Minnesota Vikings. So take all of those factors in, and I think Justin Fields has the most opportunity to be the first rookie in this class to make his playoff debut. But that is all I have for you guys today. Make sure you guys leave this video a like. That helps this channel to grow. Which quarterback do you think will be the first from this class to start in the playoff game? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I would love to see this conversation continue to go. And also, if you've gotten to this point in the video, make sure you click that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you will not miss a video. But I am APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe. Have a great and excellent day. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.